where's my validation come from? Like, am I validated because I got 64 likes on my Instagram post, or am I validated because my son watched my film and he laughed at the part that I wanted him to laugh at, or whatever, you know what I mean? So those are the things that I think about juggle. I don't know that that's perfect advice for a young one, but I would say that finding a way to just overcoming that fear of other people's judgment of what you're doing is something that I think if you can figure out early on, you're going to be better off.
It's episode 113 of your favorite Studio Sherpas podcast, the only Studio Sherpas podcast. Welcome to the show where our number one goal is to help you grow your video business. If you don't know who I am, my name is Ryan Coral, and I have my own video production business and team, and my aim with this show is to invite you into a greater community of filmmakers, inspire you to charge what you're worth, and ultimately create a business that doesn't just survive, but thrives. Does that sound good? All right. Well, I started doing this journal thing. My daily routine consists of a few things. I usually try to wake up around 5:30. I wish it was more like 5 a.m., but 5:30. And I think this is one of the signs of getting older where like you get up earlier. But I watched this YouTube video probably a year ago where this woman was saying like how she gets up at, it's either 5 or 5:30, and how she gets so much stuff done. And I'm like, man, that sounds amazing. So I've been getting up earlier and earlier as the days go by. But 5:30 is amazing because my whole house is asleep and I get to just do things and not, you know, I love my family, but sometimes to not get interrupted, it's a beautiful thing. So anyway, I usually, first thing I do is I'll work out for a short bit. I shower, then I sit down at our dining room table with a cup of hot coffee. I spend some time reading my Bible and journaling, and then I'll spend 15 to 20 minutes in this new thing called a high performance planner. It's new for me. I thought it was the cheesiest thing in the world, and I just did not want to get it because I'm like, it just sounds dumb. But I got it, and I've been doing it, and I am loving this thing and love that I've added it to my daily morning routine. So there are daily question prompts and things to think about for your upcoming day. I actually manually write in my schedule for the day. I just look at my Google Cal on my phone, and I just write in like each appointment, and then I start thinking about those things. And then with the question prompts, I really just have a good vision for the day. And then at the end of the day, I usually take 5 to 10 minutes. There's a little section for an evening reflection. It's so good. I spend that time just looking at the day, reflecting on, what went well and things that I could have done better. Doing this journal for the past 2 weeks. I've done it every day. There were a couple of days where I didn't do either the morning or the evening, but I am getting so much out of it. I know it sounds like so weird, but I promise you it's working for me. So it's helping me keep focused on my mission. It's helping me to be intentional with my day every single day, and it's challenging me to look and to reflect at the end of the day to think about how I could have made my day better, how I could win the day, is what Brandon Bouchard, he's the guy that came out with the journal. So I feel like I'm winning more days. And one of the daily questions that it asks, it's something like, if you were a high performance coach, what would you say to yourself? And I feel like my chat with Ryan today reminds me of this question. In this episode, Ryan and we talked about fear and how, so you had Ryan and Ryan on the show. It's confusing, maybe. I digress. So we talk about fear and how fear wants to dictate what we do and what we don't do. Can you imagine that if you would have been so afraid to try filmmaking that you didn't do it? I'm sure that most of us have been scared when sharing a project, an edit that we've worked tirelessly on, that we've poured our just everything, blood, sweat, and tears into. And that's awesome. I think that's a healthy fear. So as long as that fear doesn't hold us back from sharing and creating more and sharing more, you can't let fear stop you from starting or stop you from continuing on. My guest today is Ryan Welch from AO Creative. His work is beautiful, and he's got an awesome story. And here's what we talk about in today's show: how being intentional can even start with your name, passion projects that lead to real work, and we spend some time talking about how to get funding for your project, for this passion or just this dream thing that you want to do, and then the magic formula for finding the perfect client. Okay, spoiler alert, it's not real magic. I know this title sounds amazing, though, and the magic formula. You're going to walk away equipped with some new knowledge and encouragement as you hear another real story from a real studio. Ryan Welch from AO Creative. Let's roll that tape. Digital tape, of course. Hey, what's up, guys? It's Ryan Coral from Studio Sherpas, and this is the Studio Sherpas podcast. Welcome to another episode. Today, we are with Ryan Welch, who is the owner and creative director of AO Films, a production company and creative collective. And this is what I like to call one of those real studio, real story episodes, interviews, hangouts. Ryan, thanks so much for being here, and welcome to the show.
No, it's good to be here.
And you're in not Portland.
No, we're in Eugene, just south. So University of Oregon, 2 hours south of Portland.
And you're like a big fan of.
I'm a big Duck fan. Yes, grew up here and lived all over the Northwest. But I'm a very season ticket holder since I was 10 years old to football.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, I remember years ago, you and I had connected at InFocus. We were talking about this recently. And I remember shortly thereafter, I think you guys started having babies, maybe. Yeah. And then your son started playing football, right? Mm-hmm. And you coach, right?
I've coached him since he was in kindergarten. That's and amazing. He just finished his last year of me coaching him. He's 8th grade now. He's going to high school next year. So It's a little bittersweet fall for me because I had to, it obviously takes a lot of time to coach, but it's so much fun. And to see all his buddies that I've been coaching for 8 years was it was a fun fall, but I am ready to pass the baton on to the next thing. Because it does take a lot.
No joke. Yeah, for sure. I love that. Yeah. So that you did not know this, but when I, would see your little highlight films and stuff of your son, I'm like, oh man, this is man after my own heart. I just love, I played football in high school and all that stuff. And people look at me now, they're like, what? You played, you did what? And I was a guard. I was on the line.
Seriously? Oh man.
So if you're watching the video, look at these.
I'd be scared if you were pulling at me. That'd be tough.
That's right. I was quick off the line, so I would surprise many people. And many times I got surprised by how hard I would get hit.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, so talk a little bit about AO Films. What kind of work do you guys do? What kind of clients do you guys work with?
We are a small team. We have about 3 primary people, including myself. And then an assistant editor, and then recently we have somebody who I don't know what he's like an executive producer, somebody who gets us work. I'm not sure. There's lots of names for those people, I guess.
You're like, I'm not sure what he does.
Yeah, I don't know what he does. He just gets me work, but so we do anything that comes our way. We're not really in it. We found ourselves in the veteran niche a little bit in the last 5 years. And we do a lot of stuff with veterans. We do, fair amount of stuff for University of Oregon here in town. We've done stuff here and there for Nike because they're in our backyard. But again, I don't know if anybody has this experience, but you think, oh, sweet, we just work for Nike. It's game changer. It's all over. We're good to go. And then that person moves departments and then, or whatever. And so it's you get these little pockets of what you think you're going to end up doing, and then it doesn't go that way. So, but yeah, we have it just kind of depends. I mean, banks, credit unions, depends on what it is. We do our fair share of commercial stuff for those kinds of clients. That's not our favorite. We would like to be in the documentary space and try to hang out in there as much as possible. So, but yeah, really anybody that, we're pretty particular with who we work with in terms of just making sure that we're connecting as people first and that they're a good person and that we like working with them. I don't know, maybe like most people, you don't want to work with people who just make your job more difficult. And so we find ourselves trying to connect with people that we're let's spend our money and our time and our marketing dollars and energy into taking care of the people that we like working with, as opposed to finding more work that we can, drum up.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a trap that a lot of us fall into, is that especially we feel that, especially when work is slow, we're like, well, shoot, let's just, whoever is willing to hire us, let's just go out and hit every single kind of business. And you go to a chamber of commerce meeting and there is every kind of business there. So it's okay, these are all potential clients. And when you've had enough bad clients or bad experiences, you realize maybe going after all kinds of businesses isn't the best. And maybe there are, out of this pocket of clients that we've worked with, maybe there are some that we have liked working more with than others. And then I think that at that point, it's really on us to figure out, like, what are those things inside of that business? Is it the business size? Is it what kind of work they're doing? What are the things that draw us to those kinds of clients? Because, I feel like for me, for the longest time, it was like, well, if the phone's ringing or we're getting an email inquiry, we go after it. We try to win that job. No idea if it's somebody that we're even going to want to work with or like working with. And my attitude for a long time was just like, well, let's just figure it out. Like, we're good with people, and we'll get them to like us at some point. But I think that actually costs us a lot of money and time and energy. And
yeah, there's so many times that you're trying to figure out, like, okay, well, because you just said, like, how do we figure out what it is that whatever that is, the combination of the person and the client and what story they're trying to tell, or what they're trying to market, how do we figure out how to replicate that and where the best fit is? I mean, that's a tough thing. I don't think we figured, if anybody has figured that out or has a formula for it, I'd love to see it. But I think ultimately you just have to follow, you have to follow your sort of your desires and the things that you want as a company and the things that you guys, we're passionate about. Because I think if you're working with somebody, maybe the subject matter is not super like exciting, but the person that you're working with has passion, and you like being around them, and they're a good client, that that you can pass on how exciting it is, what brand it is, or whatever. It's like, no, they're good people, and you like working with them, and you have a collaborative work environment with them, and to me that's the key. I mean, we do some stuff with a mortgage company, and they're awesome. It's not the most exciting thing. They have a nonprofit, American Warrior Initiative, and they just give 100% of all the funds that go to Fairway's nonprofit AWI goes right to veterans. And it's kind of cool because we get to travel around and see them giving, home remodels or cars or a back fence or $10,000 business grant to a veteran who is just trying to get themselves back into a spot where they can kind of continue to live. And that's really cool. And that's really rewarding for us to see that kind of thing. So that, combined with the fact that the client feels like we're part of their team. And that's kind of a fun thing to feel like you're not just, oh yeah, you guys are the button pushers, come on over here and do your thing. It's like, no, you guys are, what do you guys think? Tell us about this. And so traveling with them is a lot of fun, and it makes it a lot easier when you actually care about the people that you're working with.
Yeah. And it's like you become an extension of their team. Exactly. That's how I pitch a lot of, like, when I'm talking to a potential client, like, I pitch to them, like, here's who we want to work with. We want to work with a company that brings us on as a team member, right? And so because you kind of become a team member for our team too, like, you're leading the project, and we want to help make this project amazing for you. And if people don't get that, then it's kind of like, we are going to become the button pushers. And there has been a time and place throughout our history as a company that being a button pusher that's a new term. I'm not sure, I'm like super like hip and all these things.
Punisher.
But where that has been really good for our business, just show up and hit the button pushers. But I don't think there's a magic formula, like we were kind of talking about a little earlier. But for businesses that don't know who they are, who haven't taken time to flesh out, core values, what kind of work do you want to do? What do you want to be known for? And then like when you can define and know like who you are and what you care about, and actually like flesh that out on paper, then it does make it kind of easy or easier to say like, well, I guess the kinds of companies that might align with these things that we say that we are, then it just becomes a little bit easier. If there's no definition of who you want to go after, who an ideal client is, then it's like in the middle of the project is when you're going to realize like, oh crap. Or maybe on the phone. I remember this particular phone call with a client, and the guy was just adamant about, getting a price, and I forget all the things that he was super adamant about. And the project actually sounded cool, but this was one of the opportunities that I just kind of fired the guy before he had an opportunity to hire us. And he was like shocked that, you know, nobody had ever done this, because, you know, he really knew what he wanted, or he thought he knew what he wanted, and he had the money. And, you know, I was just like, oh man, like this is not going to be.
Yeah. Well, it's those red flags, I think, that you know, like from past experience. Okay, these are the things. If I hear this, you know, we used to film weddings, or we still do. I don't do it so much anymore, but we still have a company that does. And we used to have like a list of things that, like, man, if they write this in an email, they are our ideal client. If they write this, it's something we need to just, like, you know, put on a little mark. And we're going to definitely, when we do a little, you know, video chat, we're going to need to follow up on that, because that's something that we have seen. When they do this is the result. Or, you know, if they say this, they're expecting this, which means we might not be the company for them. And that's where you just sort of gently, like you said, you know, part ways, or find some other way to slip out of that. Because it's not going to, in the end, okay, yeah, you're going to get paid, but it's going to be a pain in the butt. Maybe you don't even want to put the thing up on your website because you're not real proud of it. It's not worth it. It's tough to, I mean, especially now, like, this is a funny time of year, like when I feel like everybody stops doing marketing, and you're like, oh my gosh, am I ever going to do a video project again? You know, so it's funny.
So we're not the only one? Okay, cool.
Okay. We're talking in the middle of the January, and I'm like, well, we still are doing business a little bit. But yeah, it's tough, because I've learned that in January, or like early part of the year, to not get desperate and take that job that you think, oh, I got to take this. And then in May, you're shooting it, and you're like, why am I doing this? I'm crazy busy right now. And I'm shooting a job for like half of what I should have got paid for it. So I've learned over the years to just pause, trust, spend some more time with your family, whatever it is, to, like, you know, like, get yourself through it, and realize that things will pick back up, you know, and you've got to just roll through it and not get desperate.
That is, I think, for those that are listening, why do I say that? Of course you're listening, because here we are.
Well, some people, no, but you might have caught somebody's attention.
Yes, there we go.
Over there.
Yes, for those who, yes. For those
you, listen.
I forgot what I was going to say. Rewind. I think we have all been there, where the numbers don't make sense. There's no work. So of course, if somebody is knocking on your door, you do whatever you can to take that job. And I go back and forth over this, because at some point you have to feed your family, right? And if you have employees, you have to have your employees feed their families, and you know, all that stuff. So it is such a hard balance, and that's why I'm just a big proponent of, when you're super busy in May, June, July, like whatever your busy season is, you still have to be reaching out for new opportunities, and just greasing that wheel, so that when December, January, February come around, it's not like new news to people, like, oh yeah, we need a video, thank you for reaching out. And, you know, for us, like, start to finish project, like an ideal project for us is 8 to 12 weeks. You know, things are really slow in December. It's like, cool, well, we've got, you know, stockpile of cash, hopefully from the past couple of months, because we know it's going to be traditionally slow in December, January. But if I'm not reaching out to somebody in October, November to say, like, hey, end of year's coming, if you have any last minute opportunities, you know, if you got a budget that you want to blow, like, we'd be happy to do some videos with you. If not, then, like, let's connect soon to talk about what you guys are doing first and second quarter. We don't have the time when things are crazy, but you don't not have the time when you're super slow and desperate, and then you're taking jobs that you just have to because you have to pay the bills, and then you're kicking yourself later. I mean, it is like the insanity, the crazy cycle that we've all been on, and it's like, why am I taking this job? I knew I shouldn't have taken this job. But at the same time, it's like, well, I needed to eat, so what were my alternatives? But to your point, it's like, if you can wait it out, and if you're not just sitting down and just kind of like waiting for the phone to ring, you know, that's stupid. But if you're actively doing something to try to find an ideal client, rather than, you know, well, there's this job, there's this opportunity in our lap, we're probably supposed to take it. It's like, you better be really, really sure that you have to take that before you do, if it's somebody that you're, like, not going to get excited about working with.
Yeah. And to your point that, you know, it's one thing if it's I used to be a one-man band, and it's like, all right, I know what I need to you know, build a business and to provide for my family. But when you are employing other people, it's like another deal where you're like, all right, well, maybe we'll create a little, funnel here where some jobs that maybe I'm not super stoked about doing, we'll get them in the queue and I'll let, my employees kind of own those and take them and it's like things that I don't really love to do, but they're getting experience, they're getting an opportunity to go do some stuff, own some things. Maybe it's a $1,500 job, like a super basic business profile interview, hour of B-roll. Like it's not super complicated, but there's tons of businesses out there that would die to have something like that would be really highly professionally shot, look good, sound good. And that's a great opportunity to give them some learning experience.
Totally.
And also make sure they're getting paid that month and, and then you're kind of moving on. So it kind of, I've not perfected that, but that's something that I've been trying to be better at, is like finding ways to sort of, make sure they get experience and opportunity. The client expectation isn't through the roof, but they're still getting something that's quality and everybody wins.
Tell me, what's the story behind AO? Like, what is that?
AO stands for audience of one. So God being the one, we're focused on mostly just impressing him and not trying to impress the world or trying to not looking horizontally, but vertically.
Mm-hmm. And so out of curiosity, I think I do remember a long time ago, I don't know where I saw that, if that was on your website or when we met. Maybe I asked you that question, but here we are on the podcast. How does that play into the type of work that you guys are doing, or the clients, or the culture that you're creating at work? Do things look different for you because of that?
I wouldn't say it's not like, oh, if you don't believe what we believe, you can't work with us, or you can't. I mean, I think it comes out in the way that we treat people. It comes out in the way that we, the projects we choose. I mean, there's certain things that we're not gonna align with, and so it makes sense to not, do certain projects based on that. But it's not something that consciously. It's more of like the way we live our lives and how it translates into the work we do, as opposed to let's let it funnel directly into the work that we do. And because I mean, that's how everything is. It's like, I tell people all the time, look, I mean, you can go get this same video from 100 other small studios like ours all around the country, right? Like there's nothing we're doing that's like, that is the secret sauce. But I feel like we are a team of people that you will get along with and you'll like and you'll enjoy, and you're not going to get us anywhere else in the country. And so that's to me what we're all about, is trying to find a way to, just be good people, to then work with people and have them care about what they care about us, we care about them. And then it's a collaborative. I mean, I sort of liken it to like, hey, instead of like sitting on two sides of the table, you're over there and we're over here, let's all come onto the same side of the table and work together. And when you can get a client, who we talked about that earlier, but when you can get a client to come to your side and you guys are working together as a team, as opposed to like, all right, this is a transaction, you're doing this for me and I'm paying you this. It's like, no, like here's what the ultimate goal is. Come on over here, let's look at this and let's figure out how to get through it. There's still gonna be bumps in the road, there's still gonna be problems, but those problems are so much more just resolvable than if somebody's pointing a finger like, what's your fault, So that's, I think ultimately it's just about the way that we choose to live our lives, and how it translates to how we treat people in life, and my neighbors, and then also like my clients.
I love that. I totally resonate with that. And I love just the intentionality behind why you guys chose that, and how you're trying to live that out is very, very cool. Cool that, I mean, I feel like, there are probably plenty of businesses out there. It's like, it reminds me of, we just watched Mrs. Doubtfire the other night with the kids, and so good, minus a few swear words throughout the film. But, when he's on the phone with his wife, and she's like, who is this? Or what's your name? And he's like trying to figure out, and he like, I think it was the newspaper. He's like, Doubtfire. So many businesses probably are like, this sounds cool. Like, let's do this. But, to know that with the name of your company, starting there's intentionality and there's reason for that. So that really spills over into the culture that you're creating and the people that you're trying to work with, and the kind of work that you're trying to do. So I love that. Really, really respect that.
Yeah.
What kind of advice? I have mustache hairs going up my nose. What kind of advice do you have for the budding filmmaker or the budding studio?
Oh man, I would say, I mean, I listen to your podcast quite a bit also. So I would say it's not going to be anything that anybody else doesn't say, but I would say as much as you can, like eliminate fear from what you're doing. And when I say that, I'll share just a short story. When I was a
Yeah.
kid, like we grew up, like a lot of the like other people that are in the industry, like I didn't think I was going to ever do this, but I just always had a camera in my hand. My parents' family camera was basically my camera. We would roll
Yeah.
around on high eight, film stuff, then edit it VCR to VCR, and then all three of us buddies would sit there and watch it, and it'd be all scratchy on the edits. But man, we laughed and we
Didn't
thought it was the
matter.
coolest thing in the world. And I think what happens, so fast forward to like 2 summers ago, my son is in 7th grade, and I gave him a older camera of mine, and he went out and played with it. I showed him a little basics on Final Cut on how to edit, and him and his buddies would put these edits together, and they were stupid, like, cross-court basketball shots and weird, just anything. It was like, but I love that summer he just explored and he had fun with his friends. Well, they started rolling him onto YouTube, and when he went back to school that year, that after summer, like some kids started making fun of him. Now, it wasn't like it was like a bullying issue or these kids were, it's just like they were just kind of jealous that he had something that they were doing. We all see that as adults, but like he took that as like him and his buddies, he immediately came home, took all those YouTube videos down. And to me, I'm like, that's sad that like, that's what his experience with video is now, is that I have to put something up that somebody else, and if somebody else doesn't accept it or like it or whatever, then all of a sudden I'm crushed. And to me, I think we can do that as professionals, is we can put stuff up, and then if we don't get the response that we are, or the validation, or if we don't get enough likes on Instagram or whatever it is, all of a sudden we're like, oh, I'm done, shutting it down. And to me, I've fallen out all the time. You're kind of like, oh, I don't know if I want to post this, because what if where it's like, no, just create and do things that make you come alive, and put them out for the world to see. And if people don't connect with it or whatever, who cares? Like, that's their issue, not yours. And I find myself falling into that trap all the time. And I would say that, the stuff that I see, and the people that are doing things that you're like, that is amazing. What the heck? And you listen to the backstory on it. You're like, oh, they just did it because they loved it. And they just like passionate about it. And they went out and created it. And to me, I would say, try to find a way to just eliminate the fear of like what other people are going to say. Obviously you need your stuff to be good. I'm not saying just throw crap out there and hope that people like it. But like, I think if you are doing something that is coming from your heart, from your soul, from where you are and who you are, I would say, don't let other people sort of crush that based on other people's opinions. And that goes with Instagram and all the other things that we look, side to side to see, like, oh, are people accepting me? Am I worth something? And who's validating me? And that's something that we struggle with in this world, is trying to figure out, where's my validation come from? Like, am I validated because I got 64 likes on my Instagram post, or am I validated because my son watched my film and he laughed at the part that I wanted him to laugh at, or whatever, you know what I mean? So those are the things that I think about juggle. I don't know that that's perfect advice for a young one, but I would say that finding a way to just overcoming that fear of other people's judgment of what you're doing is something that I think if you can figure out early on, you're going to be better off.
Yeah, I think that's huge. And for a budding filmmaker or a new studio, I think that's a trap that so many of us fall in. I mean, you've been doing this for a long time. I've been doing this for a long time. I feel like I can still be like, oh man, do I want to share this? And what is the response going to be? But I've had a number of guests on who have shared this similar idea that you just got to create. You got to put it out there. You got to learn from your mistakes. You can't learn if you're not putting stuff out there and getting a response, getting people to be like, that's terrible. And then try to, for your job at that point should be like, okay, like what's terrible about it? What don't you, because when I made it, I thought it was amazing. Like, what don't you, oh, I don't like the font. It's like, oh shoot. Okay. Like, well, I could fix the font, right? That's easy. Or I don't like the way you tell stories. Like, well, what about the way that I tell stories? Like, what don't you like? Oh, I don't like how everything's in chronological order. Oh, okay. Well, I think maybe there's another way to tell it, like time shifting or, something like that. When we can ask questions and press in and not be, and it's hard as a creative to not have our feelings hurt and to not be, I just feel like we are more emotional than people that aren't creative.
Yep.
And so, we put our work out there. It's like putting our heart out there and having people stomp on it. It's like, that doesn't feel good. But if we're really trying to make this a career, in a business, then we have to get over the stomping and say like, okay, like there's my heart. It's bleeding all over. It's crushed, it's smashed. Why did you do that to my heart? Why did you say that about my work? Like what, if you could see it, if you could make any edits or changes, like what would you change? How could I make this better? Those are the things that will really propel us to grow and to learn and to become better. But we've got to put the stuff out there. We've got to make it. We've got to take a stab at whatever we think like, well, I think this would be cool. Try it. If you don't like it, then sure, don't put it out there. But if you like it and you're just like, I wonder if other people are gonna like, put it out there, right? That's a huge step, right? It sounds a lot easier than it probably is. I'm curious because you have a project that we talked about, Go Ahead Adventure. Talk a little bit about what that project was, and then also like what was the result of doing that project?
Yeah, it was so last, gosh, it must have been 2 years ago. So early 2017. I had this feeling, same time of year, kind of end of Christmas season coming into the new year. I had this weird kind of like, I don't, not that I didn't want to do what I was doing anymore, but I just wanted something different. I wanted something real. We had gone through a couple of years where like, we were getting paid pretty well to travel with these other companies, and the creative part of it wasn't there, but it definitely was like, man, we had a great year. That was awesome. Like, and kind of easy, like kind of cookie cutter. Here we go. You get paid. And so like, and I'm getting older, I'm closer to 40. So I'm starting to kind of go like, all right, I remember, I don't know about you, but like when I started, I remember thinking like, oh, I'm 22. Like I can do whatever I want. And when I'm 40, I'll probably be blah, 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 blah. Like you had these things in your head. And so then 40's always been this number in my head. And it's like, wait a minute, I'm like almost there. Like where am I where I thought I would be? Like, and if not, then what the heck? So I just
you're pretty much dead at 40. Like once you hit 40,
much, it's like in this industry, it's like you're the old timer. But I just had this. I love being outside. I love being just adventuring with my kids and exploring. Oregon is just a beautiful state. It's got a ton of things to see and do, and so I just I just committed to kind of taking my camera with me and not filming necessarily for anything or for any client or whatever, but just to film our experiences and the fun that we had and sort of a little bit in between sort of your GoPro video where you're just like, and then and maybe your higher end stuff. So I wasn't bringing rigs or necessarily having it was just usually me and no tripod, just kind of just doing what I could to. So I just took a 3, 4, 5 months and then went back and got some other footage, and I just created something that I wanted to make. And it was just something that it just came out of me. There was no purpose for it. I didn't make it for anyone. I definitely had a couple clients of mine who, and that was the other thing, I guess I had pitched them on some stuff and they kind of like had scoffed or like, whatever. And I kind of was a little jaded by that, kind of like, okay, well, let me just, so I think part of it was like, I want to show you guys what I could have done if you just let me, and so I did it and put it out there, and I got really good response. And I didn't pitch it to anybody or whatever, but definitely more than any other piece we've done, I feel like at least in the last couple of years, people will say, man, we saw that Go Adventure piece, and like that's amazing. And so the other thing too that I would say to people who, and this is like, we as a team were like, what kind of films do we want to do? And we were like, we want to be outside. We listed all these things, like, who do we want to work for? Like, well, REI, or, like we listed all these different outdoor companies. We're like, okay, let's go create a piece that will resonate to them. Not, maybe we could show them a piece about veterans, but that's not going to be something that they're going to maybe connect to, as opposed to like, let's just go show them. And so that was sort of the intent, is to go capture and do stuff. And since then we've gotten a couple jobs, like, with the local tourism, here in the Valley. And so that's definitely a correlation between, like, I was able to pitch that to them and they were like, oh, okay, I see what you guys can do. So definitely a cool experience. And it was a weird process for me to kind of go through, because at the time I felt like I was in this valley of like, I don't know what I want to do. I'm a little bummed by a couple pitches that didn't go my way, but really good response and fun to do. So
yeah. Well, and it's clear that when we're passionate about something, when we're excited about something, other people can sense that and feel that.
Yep.
So to create that passion piece that we always talk about, that thing that just like, oh, I just need to make this thing. Well, guess what? Like if there's a fire inside of you that's driving you to not get this idea, this thing out of your head, and you do that thing, well, then guess what? Exactly what you just said. Now you've got a piece that who knows what industry, whatever this fire is, where you can sell that. But later, if you think creatively, it's like, okay, so we just created this piece about being outside adventuring. Okay, what brands align with that? Oh, REI, North Face, whatever, these different companies. It's like, okay, cool. Like we can actually try shopping this around to these people because we think that's the voice, who we might be speaking to.
Mm-hmm.
And there you go. I feel like it's hard for a brand or a company or whatever to see something like that and to not get it, right? Because you are speaking directly to them, which goes back to this idea of knowing who you are, and then knowing what kind of work you want to be doing, and who does that align with? Who does that fit? Does that fit with REI, or does that fit with I don't know. I was going to say Kmart, but I don't know. Is there Kmart anymore?
I don't know. There's no Kmart's around here, but yeah, maybe
there
Shop.
is. Did you call it Kmart's?
Kmart.
Oh,
No.
I thought you added an S.
No.
Here in Detroit, people like to add S's to the end of. So if you're going to go to Kmart, it's actually we're going to Kmart's, or Myers. It's actually just Meyer. Kroger.
Google's.
Kroger. The Google. The internets. So that's what people do around here. We love them for it. And
there's two of everything out. There's multiple, I think it's plural.
So anyway, the whole point there being that whatever that thing is, just stinking do it, because you'll be fulfilled by it, and then lo and behold, it will actually become a piece that you can use to pitch to do more stuff like that.
Yep. I've heard that, and I hear that. I mean, at In Focus or these other conferences I've been to, it's like, man, people say that, and I, even listening to your podcast, I hear people saying that. I'm like, I got to do that. I got to do that. So it's just, it's not easy. It's not like, I'm going to go, because we're working on one right now, and it's like, okay, we got, it's going to cost me money. Mm-hmm. I'm going to have to do it right. I'm going to have to pay my people and make sure they're excited about it and get, jazzed about it. I'm going to have to pay some talent, because I can't just do it, with me and my buddies anymore. It's like, you guys has to be legit. So it's definitely not easy, but I tell you what, when you're doing it and everybody's fulfilled and when you're doing it, there's another part of it. When you're not doing it for a client, there's something to that too. Like you can do kind of what you want. You make the call, like, right. You don't have to go like, well, do we need to show the product a little more? Or do we have to make sure that, there's certain things you can just go, let's just tell a great story. And like, we can do it ourselves. And, I think there's some freedom in that.
Mm-hmm. What as we look at 2019, what big challenge or big goals do you have this year?
I would say so. The last 18 months we've been working on a documentary. That was it's been a different couple years for that reason. I spent a lot of time in Alaska, so my team here, I had to sort of make sure they were dialed in, and Kate, our producer, did a great job of kind of just keeping the home fires burning and going. And so the struggle of like, A, that was a struggle. B, the looking at that and going, okay, can you go do a piece where you're not getting paid and can you still keep things going? That answered that question of like, okay, we can. I mean, obviously my credit cards are pretty close to maxed out, and I've got some things I got to pay back, but we're still ticking and we're still alive and we're still feeding our families. And to me, like that fear of like, oh man, what would it look like to risk that big? What would it look like to take a jump off this cliff and just not know where it's going to go, other than knowing that you're going to have a great documentary at the end of it. Yeah. And we're still in the middle of that process. We just finished filming. We're beginning the process of post-production and finding some financial partners to kind of help us finish the film. But I think this struggle for us going forward, and it's sort of been answered, is trying to figure out how to do that over and over. Like we want to do commercial work, but we also kind of want to start dipping our toe into doing longer documentaries that might last. It might be a year process, or it might be a 18-month process, or something that, so like, how do you layer a huge project like that with like multiple little ones that are going to kind of keep things going. So you're still taking care of your clients, and they don't look at you like, well, what the heck are you doing? Like, you're always in Alaska. Like, are you even working on my project? And balancing that with doing things that really as a team fulfill you and make you, and, like, get you excited about telling stories in a way that, you don't get to with doing a commercial for an Instagram product or something.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, good luck on that project. I'm excited to hear do you have any funders in mind, and are you having those conversations right now?
We're having those conversations now. There's a couple. So Jeff, who's my EP, he's worked in New York and Hollywood. He knows. That's the thing, is I don't know any of that stuff. Like, that is something that is, it's so foreign to me. I've learned a ton in the last 4 months, but the interesting thing is just watching him work, like things. And the thing that I'm most encouraged about in the content creation business, and where Netflix is going, or Amazon, all these things, for creatives like us, there are people that want stories like none other. Like, there is so much desire, and I'm not saying that necessarily about just this, but like, what I see is that there is a desire for content. And if you have a great story, there's somebody out there that will listen to you. We shopped our sizzle around and got a great response. And I was just surprised at how quickly people were like responding to it. And obviously that doesn't mean like, oh yeah, we're going to give you money, or we're going to, whatever. But just for a guy from Oregon to know that, like, hey, we can tell a story that's going to move the needle for somebody to some extent that is in Hollywood or wherever, is kind of a cool thing. Now, I'm still in the middle of how this finishes out, and I'm realizing that things take a long time. Like, we're used to, you talked about that 8 to 12 week, that's us. We're like 2 months, like, to get things in and out. This is a little different story, and I've had to sort of like temper my expectations on how long this could take. I literally thought we'd film it, we'd be done with it, it'd be out now, and it's like, like we have 200 hours of footage to go through, so just chill out. So so I think that's the part that's just like learning that, understanding that, and then I think leaning on people that know that. Like, I don't know that part of it. I know how to make things look good. I know how to tell a good story, but I don't know that side of the business. So I'm learning it, and I'm aligning myself with people who do know that, that can help me, in that process. And I think that's the thing, is you can't be everything. I mean, I started out doing everything. I was the janitor. I was all the way up to like editing, you're doing everything. And so, but you got to get to a point where you're like, all right, this is my lane. This is what I'm good at. I'm going to put somebody else over here and put them in a lane where they're good at, and it's going to help me because I'm not that good at that, or I don't like it, or whatever it is. So.
That's awesome. Yeah. Good luck. Let me know how the funding goes.
It'll be.
I think we're all very interested in this approach, and we've had some other people on previous episodes where this is their model, and it's like, oh man, if I could figure that out, then we can just do passion projects. That'd be amazing.
Totally. Yeah.
Well, Ryan, this has been awesome, dude. I'm really grateful for all the stuff that you shared. I think you're going to be surprised at how many people resonate with this conversation and what you had to bring to the table. So thank you very much.
Good. Yeah. Good to be here. And it's always fun listening to your podcast. So hopefully somebody out there will connect with something I said that'll be of value to them.
Yeah, I'm sure of it. Well, thanks, my friend. Good luck. How can people find you? Where can they kind of keep tabs on what you got going on?
Website is aofilms.com. I'm on Instagram, just Ryan Welch, and our Instagram for AO is just AO Films.
Awesome.
Yep.
All right. I'm like, all right. Okay. Thank you again so much, man. Please, somebody edit my stumbling out at the very end. This was like great until I'm like, all right, now what do I say? Peace out, man.
Creating more work for somebody. Way to go.
That's what I do. All right. We'll talk to you soon, buddy.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks.
Yep.
Bye.
I love that. I love having like real people on the show. I haven't had any fake people on the show yet. But just down to earth people that have real studios and that are doing real stuff, that, the stuff in the trenches, the stuff that you and I are doing. You can check out all the show notes at studiosherpas.com/113. And now it's time for me to read a testimonial. This is from Gabe Ratliff, owner of Gethora. He is, well, you're going to see, he's really cool. This is what he said. As I've said before, I'm a huge fan of you, your business, and the work you are doing. I love the value you bring to the world and our industry. I'm a devout ambassador for you and the Studio Sherpa's mission. I love the lens with which you shine your light on things in business and how we interact in the world. Looking forward to all the good things to come from this offering and community. Thank you, Gabe Ratliff. Dude, I mean, I don't know. That's like, there's so much good I mean, you said like, you know, there's light and lens. I just, the analogies were amazing, but super, super encouraging. You guys, I love stuff like this. I get fired up when I read this stuff because I'm like, oh my gosh, like this show, the community, the paid courses that, you know, I've invested time and energy to bring to the world. People are getting stuff out of it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So thank you for the encouragement, Gabe, and just everybody else who calls, messages, texts, and just says, keep it up. I love that. Thank you for that. And I'm not afraid to say words of encouragement. That's like one of my biggest love languages. I need that stuff, so I'm not desperate for it, but I love it when I get it. So anyway, if you want to rate the show, you can go to studiosherpas.com/iTunes and leave a review there. 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 stars, whatever you feel fits. But we're getting close to 100. I thought we would have been there already. Sometimes it's like pulling teeth trying to get you guys to review the show. But anyway, I digress again. If you've got big dreams for your business and you need some accountability, training that's going to save you loads of time learning the business of running and scaling a video production business. I'm not talking just like living paycheck to paycheck. I'm talking about a business where you have some systems and processes in place so that you can expect a certain amount of revenue with the work that you put into your business. If this sounds desirable, then please check out the Video Business Academy at studiosherpas.com/academy. And next week, we talk with filmmaker and entrepreneur Dallin Need. This guy is on fire. He's got some really creative ideas on how he's growing his video business and things that have me chomping at the bit to start doing. Don't miss that episode. Dallin is a super guy and has some really smart ways that he's grown his business that we can all learn from. So thank you for joining me this week. As always, reach out, message us on Instagram at Studio Sherpas. You can watch the episodes of the show on YouTube at Studio Sherpas, and you can check out the show notes for links and other things that we talked about at studiosherpas.com/113. Take care, my friend. Thank you so much for listening. Climb on and peace out.